The arrow had missed her heart by 3 inches, but Zasha knew it would kill her all the same if she did not find help soon. She stumbled through the forest border between the orcish highlands and human farmland, one hand pressed against the wound in her shoulder, green blood seeping between her fingers as the world tilted sickeningly with each step. The humans had driven her clan from their ancestral hunting grounds, her people scattered to the winds after the final battle. And now she was alone, dying and walking straight into enemy territory because there was nowhere else to go. The farmhouse appeared through the trees like a mirage, small and weathered with smoke rising from its chimney in the gathering dusk. Zasha's legs gave out when she reached the edge of the cleared fields, and she fell hard onto the plowed earth, tasting dirt and blood. She tried to rise, managed to get to her hands and knees, then collapsed again. Her vision swam with dark spots. This was it then. She would die here in the mud like an animal, alone and unmourned, just another orc corpse for the humans to burn. The farmhouse door opened. Footsteps approached, boots crunching on the hard ground. Zasha tried to lift her head but could not manage it. She expected a blade, expected the final blow that would end her suffering. Instead, gentle hands rolled her onto her back and a man's voice said, "Gods above, you are in bad shape." She forced her eyes to focus. The human man kneeling beside her was perhaps 30 years old, with dark hair pulled back from a weathered face and gray eyes that studied her with concern rather than hatred. He wore simple farmer's clothes, dirt under his fingernails, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Not a soldier then, just a farmer who would probably kill her anyway once he realized what she was. "Please," Zasha managed, the word coming out in a rasp. "Please, I will go. I did not mean to trespass on your land." "You are not going anywhere in this condition," the man said firmly. He slid his arms under her, one beneath her shoulders and one beneath her knees, and lifted her as though she weighed nothing despite her muscular build. Zasha was tall for an orc woman, nearly 6 feet, but he carried her without apparent effort. "Let us get you inside before you bleed out on my turnip field." The warmth of the farmhouse hit her like a physical force after the cold of the forest. The man set her down carefully on a wooden table, then moved around the single room gathering supplies. Water, cloth, a bottle of something that smelled like strong alcohol. Zasha watched him through half-closed eyes, waiting for the moment when kindness would turn to cruelty. But he simply rolled up his sleeves further and began carefully cutting away the leather armor around her wound. "My name is Isaac Garrick," he said as he worked, his voice calm and steady. "I am going to clean this wound and stitch it if I can. It is going to hurt quite a lot. Do you understand?" Zasha nodded weakly. "I am Zasha, of the Broken Ridge clan, or I was. There is no clan anymore." Isaac's hands paused for just a moment, then continued their careful work. "I heard about the battle. The militia pushed your people out a month ago. They burned our village, killed anyone who could not run fast enough." Zasha's voice was flat, emotionless. She had no tears left for that horror. "I was out hunting when they came. I returned to find everything gone." "I am sorry," Isaac said, and he sounded like he meant it. He poured water over the wound and Zasha hissed through her teeth, her small tusks clenching together. "The arrow went clean through, at least. That is good. I can work with that." He cleaned the wound with gentle efficiency, then threaded a needle with steady hands. Zasha watched the ceiling beams as he stitched, focusing on breathing through the pain. She had taken worse injuries in battle, but something about lying helpless on a stranger's table made it harder to bear. When he finally tied off the last stitch and bandaged her shoulder, she felt hollow with relief. "You need rest," Isaac said, wiping his hands clean. "And food when you can stomach it. You can take the bed. I will sleep by the fire." Zasha tried to sit up and failed, her body refusing to cooperate. "Why are you helping me? I am your enemy." "You are an injured woman on my land," Isaac replied, his gray eyes meeting hers steadily. "That makes you my responsibility, not my enemy. Now stop trying to be noble and let yourself heal." She wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some shred of pride, but exhaustion pulled her down like a heavy blanket. Isaac lifted her again and carried her to the bed in the corner, setting her down on clean sheets that smelled of soap and sunshine. Zasha's eyes closed before he even stepped away, and she fell into darkness without dreams. When she woke, pale morning light filtered through the window, and the smell of cooking meat made her stomach clench with sudden desperate hunger. Zasha pushed herself carefully upright, testing her shoulder. It hurt terribly, but the bleeding had stopped and the wound felt clean. She looked around the farmhouse with clearer eyes than the night before. It was a simple place, one large room with the bed in the corner, a fireplace along one wall, a table and chairs, shelves with supplies and little in the way of decoration. A life lived alone, she thought. No woman's touches, no children's toys. Isaac stood at the fire, stirring something in a pot, his back to her. "You should still be lying down," he said without turning around. "How did you know I was awake? Your breathing changed." He ladled soup into a wooden bowl and brought it to her. "Eat slowly. Your body has been through trauma." The soup was simple but good, vegetables and salted pork in a rich broth. Zasha ate carefully, aware of Isaac watching her to make sure she did not make herself sick. When she finished, he took the bowl away and returned with a cup of water. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I do not understand why you are doing this, but thank you." Isaac settled into a chair near the bed, his expression thoughtful. "5 years ago, I was a soldier in the king's army. I fought in the southern campaigns against the goblin raiders. I saw what war does to people, saw villages burned and families destroyed, and I decided I wanted no more part of it. I bought this land with my mustering out pay, and I have been farming it ever since." He paused, studying his hands. "When I found you yesterday, all I saw was someone who needed help. Your green skin and tusks did not change that. Most humans would have killed me on sight. Most humans are fools," Isaac said bluntly. "I make my own decisions about who deserves my kindness." Zasha felt something strange and unfamiliar unfurl in her chest, something that might have been hope if she dared to name it. She looked down at her bandaged shoulder, at the careful neat stitches visible at the edges of the wrapping. This human man had taken her in, tended her wounds, fed her, and asked nothing in return. In her clan, such kindness would create a debt that could never be fully repaid. "How long must I stay here?" she asked. "Until you are healed enough to travel safely." "A week at least, maybe 2 depending on how the wound mends." Isaac stood and moved to the door. "I have chores to tend to. Rest as much as you can. There is more soup in the pot if you get hungry again." He left her alone in the quiet farmhouse. Zasha lay back carefully, staring at the ceiling beams and trying to make sense of her situation. She was alive when she should be dead. She was being cared for by a human who had every reason to hate her kind. And most confusing of all, she felt safe here in a way she had not felt since before the battle, before everything fell apart. The days developed a rhythm. Isaac worked his farm from dawn to dusk, tending his fields and animals, while Zasha rested and slowly regained her strength. He changed her bandages each morning and evening, his touch always gentle and professional. He cooked simple meals they ate together at the table, and in the evenings they talked. Zasha learned that Isaac had grown up in a village 3 days' journey south, the youngest of 4 brothers. He had joined the army at 16 seeking adventure and found only blood and mud. He spoke little of the war itself, but she could see the shadows it left in his eyes. He had no family left. His parents had died of fever while he was away, and his brothers had scattered to pursue their own lives. In return, she told him about the Broken Ridge clan, about growing up in the highlands learning to hunt and track, about the rich traditions of her people that humans dismissed as savage. She told him about the growing tension as human settlements pushed deeper into orc territory, about the skirmishes that escalated into open warfare, about watching her world crumble around her. "You have family out there somewhere?" Isaac asked one evening as they sat by the fire. Zasha shook her head. "My mother died when I was young. My father fell in the first major battle. I have cousins scattered among the refugee groups, but we have no way to find each other. The clans are broken. We are just individuals now, trying to survive in a world that wants us dead." "Not everyone wants that," Isaac said quietly. "No." Zasha gestured at her shoulder. "A human archer put this arrow in me. Human soldiers destroyed my home. Your people celebrate our defeat as a great victory. Some humans do terrible things. But some orcs have raided human villages, killed innocent people, stolen livestock. Neither side has clean hands in this conflict." Isaac met her eyes steadily. "That does not mean we cannot choose to be better than our worst impulses. You could have raided my farm when you were desperate and starving. I could have let you die in my field. We both chose differently." Zasha had no answer to that. She turned her gaze to the fire, watching the flames dance and flicker. In her clan, the world had been simple. Humans were the enemy and orcs had to stick together to survive. But Isaac did not fit into that simple worldview. He was kind without seeking advantage, generous without expecting payment. He treated her like a person, not a monster. By the end of the first week, Zasha could move around the farmhouse without too much pain. She insisted on helping with small tasks, preparing vegetables for meals, tidying the shelves, mending a torn shirt she found in a basket of sewing. Isaac protested at first, but she wore him down with sheer stubbornness. "You are supposed to be resting," he said, exasperated as she carefully chopped carrots for the evening stew. "I am not an invalid. And I will not lie uselessly in bed while you work yourself to exhaustion taking care of both me and this farm." Zasha pointed the knife at him for emphasis. "Accept my help, or I will follow you into the fields and assist with the plowing." Isaac raised his hands in surrender, but she caught the hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. "You are possibly the most stubborn woman I have ever met. Good. Then we understand each other." As her strength returned, Zasha found herself drawn into the rhythm of farm life. She had been a hunter, not a farmer, but there was something satisfying about the work. She fed the chickens each morning, collected eggs, and helped Isaac tend the vegetable garden. Her shoulder ached with the movement, but it was a healing ache, the pain of muscles knitting back together. She also found herself watching Isaac more than she meant to. The way he moved through his work with quiet competence, the careful attention he paid to every task, the surprising gentleness in his large hands. He was not conventionally handsome by orc standards. His features were too soft, his build too lean, but there was something compelling about him nonetheless. A steadiness, a calm strength that had nothing to do with physical power. One afternoon in the second week, Zasha was hanging laundry to dry when 3 men on horseback rode up the path to the farmhouse. She froze, her heart suddenly hammering. Human men, armed with swords and wearing the rough leather armor of militia. Isaac emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag, his expression carefully neutral. "Isaac Garrick," the lead rider said. He was a broad-shouldered man with a thick beard and suspicious eyes. "That is me. What can I do for you gentlemen?" "We are tracking an orc that escaped from the Highlands battle. Someone reported seeing tracks leading toward your property. The militiaman's gaze swept across the farmyard and landed on Zasha. His hand went to his sword. Well, looks like the information was good. Isaac stepped forward, placing himself between Zasha and the riders. This is my land. The orc is my concern, not yours. Your concern? Have you lost your mind, Garrick? That is a savage, a killer. It needs to be put down before it murders you in your sleep. She, Isaac said firmly, has been recovering from an arrow wound I treated. She has done no harm and poses no threat. You have no authority here. The militiaman dismounted, his companions following suit. We have every authority to deal with orc threats. Step aside. Zasha's hand found the knife at her belt, the one Isaac had given her for kitchen work. Her shoulders screamed in protest as she raised it, but she stood her ground. If she was going to die, she would die fighting. Stop. Isaac's voice cracked like a whip. This woman is under my protection. She is living on my land as my guest. If you want to harm her, you will have to go through me. The militiaman laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. You would fight your own kind for an orc. You really have lost your wits. I fought in the southern campaigns, Isaac said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous that Zasha had never heard from him before. I held the line at Blackwater Ford when the goblin host tried to break through. I have killed more enemies of the kingdom than the three of you combined. Do not test me. The three militiamen exchanged glances. The leader's hand stayed on his sword hilt, but he did not draw. This is not over, Garrick. The council will hear about this. They will not take kindly to orc lovers. Then tell them, I answer to the king's law, not village gossip. Isaac's stance did not waver. Now get off my property. The men remounted with ill grace and rode away, but not before the leader shot Zasha a look of pure hatred. When they were gone, Isaac let out a long, slow breath and turned to her. Are you all right? Zasha realized she was shaking. She lowered the knife, her shoulder throbbing viciously. You should not have done that. You should not have made an enemy of them for my sake. Too late. I already did. Isaac took the knife gently from her hand and guided her back into the house. Sit down before you fall down. You have gone pale. She sank into a chair, suddenly weak. They will come back, or they will tell others. Your neighbors will turn against you, perhaps, but what choice did I have? Let them kill you. Isaac poured her a cup of water. I could not do that. Why not? The question burst out of her, raw and desperate. I am nothing to you, just an orc you found bleeding in your field. Why risk everything for me? Isaac was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Because somewhere out there, an orc woman is grieving for her clan and her home. Because you deserved mercy when no one else would give it to you. Because... He trailed off, then shook his head. Because it was the right thing to do. That should be enough reason. But Zasha heard what he had not said, saw it in the way his eyes lingered on her face before he turned away. Her heart did a strange, complicated flip in her chest. This was dangerous territory, more dangerous than any battlefield. She was an orc. He was human. Even if they both felt something growing between them, and she was no longer sure she could deny that she did, what future could there possibly be in it? That night, Zasha lay awake in the bed while Isaac slept by the fire as he had every night since she arrived. The farmhouse was quiet except for the crackle of burning wood and his steady breathing. She thought about the militiamen, about the hatred in their eyes, about the choice Isaac had made to stand between her and death. No one had ever done such a thing for her. In orc culture, strength was everything. You protected your clan because the clan made you strong. But Isaac had no clan, no tribe, no family to strengthen him. He stood alone, and he had chosen to stand for her. Something shifted in her chest, a wall crumbling that she had not even known she had built. She rose from the bed, careful of her shoulder, and padded silently across the room. Isaac stirred as she approached the fire, his eyes opening. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice rough with sleep. "No, I just—" Zasha hesitated, then knelt beside him. "I wanted to say thank you, properly. What you did today, standing up to those men, it meant more than I can put into words." Isaac pushed himself up on one elbow, his hair mussed and falling into his eyes. "You do not need to thank me." "Yes, I do." She reached out tentatively and touched his hand, her green skin stark against his in the firelight. "In my culture, when someone saves your life, a debt is created. A bond. You have saved me twice now, once from death in your field and once from death at the hands of those militia. I owe you everything. I do not want you to feel obligated to me, Zasha. It is not obligation." She struggled to find the right words. "It is gratitude and respect, and something else I do not have a name for." Isaac's fingers curled around hers, warm and strong. "I think I know the feeling." They stayed like that for a long moment, hands clasped, the fire casting dancing shadows on the walls. Zasha felt the weight of everything unspoken hanging between them, heavy with possibility and danger. Finally, she released his hand and stood. "Good night, Isaac. Good night, Zasha." She returned to the bed, but sleep was long in coming. When it finally claimed her, she dreamed of strong, steady hands and gray eyes that looked at her like she was someone worth saving. The next morning brought rain, a steady drumming on the roof that turned the farmyard to mud. Zasha woke to find Isaac already up and moving around the room, gathering tools. "The chickens still need tending," he said when he saw her sitting up. "Rain does not stop the work. I will help. Your shoulder is healing well. Stop treating me like I am fragile." She stood and pulled on the heavy cloak Isaac had lent her. "Show me what needs doing." They worked together in the rain, feeding animals and checking the barn for leaks. Zasha found herself laughing when one of the chickens escaped the coop and led them on a muddy chase through the yard. Isaac caught it finally, soaked to the skin and grinning despite himself. "This is your fault for leaving the gate unlatched," he said, handing her the indignant bird. "My fault. You are the farmer. I am just a savage orc who knows nothing about chickens." But she was smiling too as she tucked the chicken back into the coop and secured the latch. Inside, they changed into dry clothes and hung their wet things by the fire. Zasha braided her dark hair back from her face, aware of Isaac watching her. When she glanced at him, he looked away quickly, color rising in his cheeks. "What is it?" she asked. "Nothing. I was just thinking that I have grown accustomed to having you here. The house feels less empty with another person in it." Zasha's hands stilled in her hair. "I should leave soon. My shoulder is nearly healed. I have imposed on your kindness long enough." "Where would you go?" It was the question she had been avoiding thinking about. "I do not know. Find other survivors from my clan, perhaps, or head north into the deep wilderness where humans do not venture. Somewhere I can survive. Or you could stay here." The words hung in the air between them, full of implications neither of them quite dared to voice. Zasha finished braiding her hair with careful precision, using the mundane task to cover her racing thoughts. "That would be foolish," she said finally. "You saw what happened with the militia. If I stay, you will face constant trouble from your neighbors. They will drive you out or worse. Let them try. Isaac," she turned to face him fully, "I cannot ask you to give up your life here for me. This farm is all you have." "No," he said quietly. "It is not anymore." Zasha's breath caught. She searched his face, seeing the truth written plainly there. He cared for her, more than cared. And the terrifying realization was that she felt the same way. Somewhere in these weeks of quiet domesticity, of shared meals and gentle care, of laughter over escaped chickens and conversations by the fire, She had fallen in love with this steady, kind human man. "This cannot work," she whispered, but even as she said it, she knew it was a lie she was telling herself. Isaac crossed the room slowly, giving her every chance to move away. When he was close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, he stopped. "Why not?" "Because you are human and I am orc. Because the world will never accept us. Because everything is against us. When has that ever stopped people from choosing who they love? Love." There it was, the word that changed everything and nothing. Zasha's hands trembled as she reached up and touched his face, her calloused fingers gentle against his skin. He leaned into her touch, his eyes closing briefly. "I am afraid," she admitted. "I have lost everything. My clan, my home, my entire way of life. I cannot bear to lose this too, to lose you." "Then do not." Isaac covered her hand with his. "Stay with me. Help me work this farm, build a life here. I know it is dangerous and difficult, and I know people will hate us for it. But I would rather face that than spend the rest of my days wondering what might have been." Zasha felt tears prick her eyes, a rare thing for an orc warrior. "You are a fool, Isaac Garrick." "Probably." "Is that a yes?" She kissed him then, leaning up to press her lips to his, her tusks clicking gently against his teeth. He made a small, surprised sound, then his arms came around her, careful of her healing shoulder. The kiss was sweet and tentative, two people learning the shape of each other, and when they finally pulled apart, Zasha was breathing hard. "Yes," she said. "Gods help us both, yes." Isaac smiled, wide and genuine, transforming his weathered face. "We will figure it out, together." They spent the rest of the rainy day planning. Isaac explained the cycles of the farm, planting season, and harvest, the care of the animals through winter, the repairs the house and barn would need before the cold set in. Zasha told him about orc hunting techniques that could be adapted to supplement their food stores, about herbal remedies her mother had taught her, about ways to fortify the property that would not be obvious to casual observers. "If the militia comes back with more men, we need to be ready," she said seriously. "I can fight, but I cannot fight off a dozen armed humans alone. Hopefully it will not come to that. Most of my neighbors are decent people. They may gossip, but I do not think they will attack." Isaac rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. "Still, it would not hurt to be prepared. I have my old army sword somewhere, and there are farming tools that make adequate weapons if needed. Let us hope it does not come to that." But even as she said it, Zasha knew they were living on borrowed time. The militiamen would spread word of the orc living on Isaac Garrick's farm. Some people would be scandalized, others outraged. Eventually, someone would decide to take action. The rain continued for 3 more days, keeping them mostly inside. They fell into a natural partnership, moving around each other in the small space with increasing ease. Isaac taught Zasha to make bread, laughing at her first failed attempt that came out dense as a brick. She taught him some words in her native language, the harsh, beautiful syllables of orcish rolling off his tongue in amusing approximations. On the 4th day, the sun came out. They ventured outside to assess the damage from the rain, and found that part of the fence around the vegetable garden had collapsed. Working together, they repaired it, Zasha holding posts steady while Isaac hammered them into the soft earth. "You are good at this," Isaac commented, wiping sweat from his brow. "The physical work, I mean. Have you ever considered farming before? Orcs are hunters and warriors, not farmers. We take what we need from the land without trying to control it." Zasha tested the post to make sure it was secure. "But I am learning. There is honor in this work too, in growing things instead of just killing them. High praise from a warrior. Do not let it go to your head, human." He grinned at her, and she found herself grinning back, her tusks showing. This was happiness, she realized with some surprise. Despite everything, despite being wounded and homeless and hunted, she was happy here with Isaac on this simple farm. That evening, as they sat by the fire after supper, Isaac cleared his throat awkwardly. "I have been thinking. If you are going to stay here permanently, we should probably make it official, in some way." Zasha looked up from the shirt she was mending. "Official how? I do not know. Marriage, maybe. I know it is not common between humans and orcs, but it would give you legal protection. You would be my wife, part of my household. It would make it harder for anyone to try to remove you." Marriage. Zasha turned the word over in her mind. Orcish marriage was different from human marriage, less about legal standing and more about clan bonds and shared honor. But she understood what Isaac was offering: his name, his protection, his commitment in the eyes of human law. "You would truly want that?" she asked carefully. "To bind yourself to me in such a permanent way?" Isaac set down the piece of wood he had been carving and met her eyes. "Zasha, I know we have only known each other for a few weeks. I know this is fast and probably foolish. But yes, I want that. I want to wake up every morning knowing you are here. I want to work beside you and eat meals with you and fall asleep listening to you breathe. I want to build a life with you, whatever form that takes." Zasha's throat felt tight. In her clan, declarations of love had been rare things, often unspoken. Orcish culture valued actions over words. But Isaac's words wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket, making her feel seen and cherished in a way she had never experienced. "I want that too," she said quietly. "But marriage between us will not be easy. No priest will perform the ceremony. No law will recognize it. Then we will make our own ceremony, speak our own vows. We do not need a priest's blessing to make our commitment real." Isaac reached across the space between them and took her hand. "Marry me, Zasha of the Broken Ridge clan. Be my partner and my love for whatever time we have." Tears spilled down Zasha's green cheeks, and she made no attempt to stop them. "You are still a fool," she said, but her voice was warm with affection. "But yes, yes, I will marry you." Isaac pulled her close, and she went willingly, settling against his chest with her head tucked under his chin. They sat like that for a long time, the fire crackling, the night deepening around them. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges and dangers, but tonight they had each other and a promise of forever. They decided to perform their ceremony a week later, wanting to give Zasha's shoulder more time to heal fully before they committed to anything. In that week, they prepared both practically and emotionally for the life they were choosing. Isaac rode to the nearest town to purchase supplies and came back with fabric for a new dress for Zasha, leather for repairing their boots, seeds for the next planting, and a small silver ring he had bought from a traveling merchant. It was simple, unadorned, but it fit Zasha's finger perfectly. "I know it is not much," he said as he slipped it onto her hand, "but I wanted you to have something to mark the occasion." Zasha turned her hand, watching the silver catch the light. "It is perfect, thank you." She had nothing material to give him in return, but she took one of her tusks. Orcs could shed their smaller tusks and regrow them, and carved it into a pendant on a leather cord. She etched symbols into it in the orcish style, symbols for strength, loyalty, and devotion. "In my culture, this is a warrior's gift," she explained as she tied it around his neck. "It means you carry a piece of me with you always. My strength is your strength." Isaac touched the pendant gently, his expression awed. "I will treasure it." On the morning of their chosen day, they woke early and went about their usual chores. There was something calming about the routine, grounding them before they took this enormous step. When the work was done, Zasha bathed in the wooden tub Isaac filled for her, washing away sweat and dirt, then dressed in the new gown he had bought. It was simple but well-made, dark green fabric that complemented her skin tone. She had never worn a human dress before, but Isaac had chosen well. It fit her muscular frame without binding and had sleeves that covered the scar on her shoulder. She left her hair loose, the dark waves falling past her shoulders, and studied herself in Isaac's small mirror. She looked strange to her own eyes, neither fully orc nor fully human, but something in between. Someone new, someone choosing her own path regardless of what either culture expected. Isaac was waiting outside when she emerged. He had changed into his best shirt and pants, simple but clean, and had combed his hair back neatly. When he saw her, his eyes widened. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "You look acceptable for a human," she replied, but she was smiling. They had decided to perform their ceremony at the edge of the forest where Zasha had first stumbled onto Isaac's land. The place where this unlikely story had begun seemed appropriate for this new beginning. They walked there together in the late afternoon, the sun painting everything gold. At the forest's edge they faced each other and joined hands. There was no one to officiate, no witnesses except the trees and birds. It did not matter. This was for them alone. Isaac spoke first, his gray eyes never leaving hers. "Zasha, I vow to stand beside you for all the days of my life. I vow to protect you, to care for you, to love you even when the world says I should not. I vow to be your partner in all things, your equal, your friend. I choose you today and every day after. This I swear." Zasha's voice shook slightly as she answered in orcish tradition. "Isaac, I vow to bring you honor through my actions and my loyalty. I vow to share my strength with you, to fight beside you against whatever enemies come. I vow to build a home with you, a life worth living even in the face of hardship. I claim you as mine and give myself as yours. By blood and bone, I swear this." She pulled out a small knife and drew it quickly across her palm, letting green blood well up. Isaac did not flinch. He took the knife and made a similar cut on his own hand, red blood mixing with green as they clasped hands tightly. "Bound by blood," Zasha said. "Bound by choice. Bound by love. We are married in the sight of the old ways and the new." "We are married," Isaac echoed. They kissed then, deep and sure, sealing their vows. When they pulled apart, both were smiling despite the tears on their faces. "Well then, wife," Isaac said, testing out the word. "Shall we go home?" "Yes, husband, let us go home." They walked back to the farmhouse hand in hand, their blood-bonded palms pressed together. The world had not changed. The dangers and prejudices they would face were still real. But something fundamental had shifted. They were no longer alone. They had chosen each other, and that choice made everything else bearable. That night, they consummated their marriage with tender passion, learning each other's bodies with wonder and care. Zasha had known orcish lovers before, quick fierce couplings born of battle lust and clan bonding. This was entirely different. Isaac touched her like she was precious, kissed every scar, murmured words of love and desire against her skin. She responded in kind, marveling at the softness of human skin, the vulnerability of letting someone this close. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, sweaty and sated and happy. "I love you," Isaac said quietly. "I should have said it before, but I love you, Zasha." "I love you too," she replied, the orcish words flowing easily. Then in the common tongue, "I love you, Isaac." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and for the first time since her clan fell, Zasha slept without nightmares. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. Zasha was in the garden harvesting vegetables when she heard the sound of many horses approaching. She straightened, one hand going instinctively to the knife at her belt, and counted at least a dozen riders coming up the path. Not just militia this time, she recognized the banner of the local lord flying at the head of the column. "Isaac," she called sharply. He emerged from the barn, took one look at the approaching riders, and moved to stand beside her. "Stay calm. Let me handle this." "Together," she said firmly. "We handle this together." The riders spread out in a semicircle in front of the farmhouse, effectively surrounding them. A man in fine clothes and polished armor rode at the center. Lord Brennan, Zasha guessed, the local authority. He looked down at them with cold calculation. "Isaac Garrick," Lord Brennan said, "I've heard disturbing reports about you harboring an orc on your land. I confess I did not believe them until now. This is treason, Garrick. You are giving aid and comfort to an enemy of the kingdom." "This woman is not an enemy," Isaac replied, his voice steady despite the swords pointed at them. "She is my wife. We were married 3 days ago. She lives here by legal right as part of my household." Lord Brennan's eyebrows rose. "Your wife? You married an orc?" "Have you completely lost your senses? I married the woman I love. There is no law against it. There is no law permitting it either. This creature is not human. It has no legal standing, no rights under our law." Lord Brennan's hand went to his sword. The king's decree was clear. All orcs are to be driven from settled lands or eliminated. I am well within my authority to execute this beast here and now. Zasha felt ice in her veins. Isaac stepped in front of her protectively, but she pulled him back. They stood side by side, presenting a united front. "If you try to kill her, you will have to kill me too," Isaac said flatly. "Is that what you want, my lord? To murder one of your own citizens who served the kingdom faithfully in war? Do not presume upon your military service, Garrick. That was years ago. What you are doing now is harboring an enemy." "She is not an enemy." Isaac's voice rose, frustration breaking through his calm. "She is a person. She has done nothing wrong. She lives peacefully on my land, harming no one. By what right do you condemn her to death?" "By the right of survival," Lord Brennan snapped. "Orcs are dangerous, violent. They cannot be trusted to live among humans without eventually turning on us. I am protecting my people." "From what?" Zasha spoke for the first time, her voice carrying clearly across the farmyard. "From a woman tending a vegetable garden. From someone who has shed her own blood defending this land. You are not protecting anyone, Lord Brennan. You are feeding fear and hatred." "Silence, creature. You have no voice here." "She has every voice," Isaac said hotly. "She is my wife. She speaks for this household as much as I do." The standoff stretched taut as a bowstring. Zasha could see the calculation in Lord Brennan's eyes, weighing options, considering consequences. Around them, the militia men shifted nervously in their saddles. This was not a clean kill, not a monster in the woods. This was a man defending his home and his wife, and whatever they thought of orcs, that meant something to simple farmers and tradesmen. Finally, Lord Brennan seemed to come to a decision. "Very well. I will not execute the orc today. But hear this, Garrick, you and your wife are banished from these lands. You have 1 month to sell your property and leave. If you are found here after that, you will both be arrested and tried for treason. That is my final word." "You cannot do that," Isaac protested. "This is my land, legally purchased, and now legally seized under emergency powers. 1 month, Garrick. Use it wisely." Lord Brennan wheeled his horse around and gestured for his men to follow. "Consider yourself fortunate I am granting you this mercy." The riders departed in a thunder of hooves, leaving Zasha and Isaac standing in the settling dust. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then Isaac let out a long, shaky breath and sat down heavily on the ground. "I am sorry," Zasha said quietly. "I have cost you everything." "No." Isaac looked up at her, his expression fierce despite the devastation. "They took everything. You gave me something worth losing it for. Zasha knelt beside him and pulled him into her arms. They held each other there in the farmyard, processing the enormity of what had just happened. Isaac's farm, his livelihood, his entire life here gone, because he had chosen to love her, because he had dared to see her as human when no one else would. "What do we do now?" she asked. Isaac was quiet for a moment, thinking. "We have a month. That is time to prepare, to decide where we want to go. The northern territories are less settled, less controlled by lords like Brennan. We could find land there, start fresh. The north is harsh, wild, full of dangers. So is staying here." Isaac pulled back to look at her face. "I am not giving you up, Zasha. If we cannot live here, we will live somewhere else. We will figure it out." Zasha felt her heart swell with love and grief in equal measure. "You are the best man I have ever known. You know that, do you not? I am just a farmer who got lucky enough to find an extraordinary woman bleeding in his field." Isaac kissed her forehead gently. "Come on, let us go inside and make a plan. We have work to do." They spent the next week preparing for departure. Isaac rode to town to discreetly sell off what livestock and equipment they could not take with them. He returned with hard silver coin and news that several of his neighbors had expressed sympathy for his situation, even if none dared speak against Lord Brennan's decree. Thomas, the blacksmith, said if we came through his area heading north, he would give us supplies for the road, Isaac reported. "And old Martha said to tell you she admires your courage, even if she does not understand it." "That is something, at least," Zasha said. "Not everyone thinks we are monsters." "Not everyone," Isaac agreed. Zasha spent her time preparing travel packs and preserving food for the journey. She also made weapons, a spear from a farming tool and a wooden staff, reinforcing them with leather and metal fittings. If they were heading into the wilderness, they would need to defend themselves against more than just human prejudice. 2 weeks into their preparations, they received an unexpected visitor. Zasha was outside practicing with her new spear when she caught the scent of orc. She whirled, weapon ready, and saw a figure emerge from the tree line. It was an orc woman, older than Zasha by perhaps a decade, with ritual scars on her arms and a hunter's bow across her back. She raised both hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean no harm, sister. I am Gritha of the Red Mountain clan, or I was before the clans fell." Zasha lowered her spear but did not sheath it. "What do you want?" "I heard there was an orc living openly among humans on this farm. I had to see if it was true." Gritha's eyes moved past Zasha to where Isaac had emerged from the house, hand on his sword. "And it is. A human and an orc living as mates. I never thought I would see such a thing." "We are married," Zasha said firmly, "and we are leaving soon. Lord Brennan has banished us." "I know. Word spreads among the refugees. That is why I came." Gritha reached into her pack and pulled out a map, crude but detailed. "There are others like us, Zasha. Orcs and humans who have found each other, who are trying to build lives together. Mostly in the far north, in the territories beyond the king's law. I have been traveling, connecting them, making sure they know they are not alone." Isaac had joined them now, studying the map with interest. "How many are there?" 24 couples that I know of, maybe more. Small farming communities, mostly, isolated but surviving. Some accept travelers if those travelers are willing to work and respect the peace they have built." Gritha tapped a spot on the map. "This valley here, about 3 weeks' travel north, it is called Haven's Reach. The people there are good. They would welcome you." Zasha felt something loosen in her chest, a tension she had not realized she was carrying. "We are not alone. You have never been alone, sister. You just did not know where to look." Gritha rolled up the map and handed it to Isaac. "The journey will be hard. You will face dangers from the wilderness and from humans who will hunt you if they know what you are. But at the end of it, there are people who will understand, who have made the same choice you have. Why are you doing this? Isaac asked. Traveling around helping strangers. Because I lost my own human mate to a mob 5 years ago, Gritha said quietly. We were not fast enough, not careful enough. I escaped, but he did not. I will not let others make the same mistakes. I will not let their hatred win. She met Zasha's eyes. Be careful, be smart. And when you reach Haven's Reach, tell them Gritha sent you. She vanished back into the forest as silently as she had come, leaving Zasha and Isaac staring at each other in amazement. Did that just happen? Isaac asked. I think so. Zasha looked at the map in his hands, at the careful notations marking safe routes and dangerous areas. We have a destination, a place where we might actually belong. Haven's Reach. Isaac tested the name. It sounds promising, at least. They spent the next 2 weeks finalizing preparations with new purpose. The knowledge that they were not alone, that others had walked this path before them, gave them strength. On the last day before they planned to leave, Isaac made one final trip to town to settle his affairs and say goodbye to the few people he still called friends. He returned late in the evening, grim-faced and angry. Zasha knew immediately that something was wrong. What happened? Lord Brennan has decided that letting us leave peacefully makes him look weak, Isaac said, his jaw tight. He is sending a squad of men to arrest us tomorrow morning. Someone in town warned me we need to leave tonight. Tonight, but we are not ready. We have to be ready. If they take us, Zasha, they will hang us both. Brennan has decided to make an example of us. Isaac started throwing supplies into packs with urgent efficiency. We take what we can carry and we go. Now, Zasha did not waste time arguing. She grabbed her weapons and the carefully prepared supplies, helped Isaac load their packs, and within an hour they were ready. They took one last look at the farmhouse, at the life they were leaving behind, and then turned north into the darkness. The first week of travel was grueling. They moved fast, staying off main roads, traveling at night when possible. Isaac pushed them hard, always looking over his shoulder for pursuit. Zasha used her tracking skills to cover their trail, to make sure anyone following would lose their scent. By the time they reached Thomas, the blacksmith's forge at the edge of the settled lands, they were exhausted and nearly out of supplies. The blacksmith, true to his word, welcomed them quietly and restocked their provisions without asking payment. There are men asking about you in the villages, Thomas warned as he packed smoked meat and hardtack into their bags. Brennan's men, offering coin for information. You two are wanted criminals now. We are just people trying to live our lives, Isaac said wearily. I know that. But they do not care. Thomas pressed a bundle into Zasha's hands. Extra blankets. It gets cold up north and here. He handed Isaac a well-made hunting knife. You will need this more than I do. Thank you, Zasha said quietly. Your kindness will not be forgotten. Just survive. That is thanks enough. Thomas clasped Isaac's hand. Take care of each other. They left the forge before dawn and entered the true wilderness. The land changed as they traveled north, becoming hillier and more forested. The weather turned colder. They saw fewer signs of human habitation and more signs of wildlife. Deer tracks, wolf prints, once the enormous paw marks of a bear. Zasha hunted for their food, her spear taking down rabbits and birds with orcish precision. Isaac set up camp each night, built their fires, tended their gear. They fell into a partnership born of necessity and love, each using their strengths to keep them both alive. One night, about 2 weeks into their journey, they were camped in a rocky outcropping when Zasha heard movement in the darkness. She went still, her hand finding her spear, and whispered urgently to Isaac, He banked the fire immediately, and they waited in the shadows. 6 figures emerged from the trees, and Zasha's heart sank. Humans, armed and moving with military discipline. Brennan's hunters had found them. "I know you are out there, Garrick," one of the men called. "We tracked you from the forge. Come out peacefully and we will take you back for trial. Resist and we will kill you where you stand." Isaac and Zasha exchanged glances in the darkness. They were outnumbered, surrounded, with nowhere to run. Zasha felt a calm settle over her, the warrior's calm she had known in battle. If this was where their story ended, they would at least end it fighting together. "We will not go back," Isaac called out. "We have broken no law. We are simply traveling. You harbored an enemy of the kingdom. That is treason. The orc's death is ordered by Lord Brennan himself." The hunter's voice was implacable. "Last chance, come out." "Together," Zasha whispered to Isaac. "Whatever happens." "Together," he agreed. They burst from cover simultaneously, Zasha's spear taking one hunter in the shoulder while Isaac's sword clashed against another's blade. The element of surprise gave them a moment's advantage, but only a moment. The hunters were trained soldiers, and they recovered quickly. Zasha fought with the fury of an orc warrior protecting her mate, her spear a blur of motion, but she was still recovering from her arrow wound and tired from weeks of travel. One of the hunters got inside her guard and slashed at her side. She felt the blade bite deep and stumbled. "No." Isaac roared. He launched himself at Zasha's attacker with such ferocity that the man fell back. But then another hunter struck Isaac from behind, and he went down hard. Zasha tried to reach him, but her side was bleeding badly and her vision was blurring. She managed to take down one more hunter with a desperate thrust of her spear before her legs gave out. She fell beside Isaac, their blood mingling in the dirt. The remaining hunters closed in, weapons raised for the killing blow. And then arrows whistled out of the darkness, taking 2 hunters in the chest. The others whirled, confused, as figures melted out of the forest. Orcs and humans together, armed and moving with coordinated precision. Gritha was at their head, her bow still raised. "You are trespassing in Haven's Reach territory," Gritha said coldly. "Leave now or join your friends in death." The 2 surviving hunters did not need to be told twice. They grabbed their wounded and fled into the darkness. The moment they were gone, Gritha knelt beside Zasha and Isaac. "Foolish children, you should have moved faster, been more careful." But her hands were gentle as she examined their wounds. "The cuts are not fatal, but they need treatment immediately." "Can you walk?" "I can manage," Zasha said through gritted teeth. Isaac nodded, pushing himself up with visible effort. "Then let us get you to Haven's Reach. You are less than a day's travel away now. You almost made it." Gritha supported Zasha while another orc, a massive warrior with red tattoos, helped Isaac. "Hold on. Your journey is almost over." They traveled through the night and into the dawn, moving as fast as Zasha and Isaac's injuries allowed. When the sun rose, it revealed a wide green valley nestled between mountain ridges. Zasha could see fields and houses, smoke rising from chimneys, people working the land. Orcs and humans living together, not hiding, not cowering, but openly building a life. "Welcome to Haven's Reach," Gritha said quietly. "Welcome home." They descended into the valley. People looked up from their work as the group passed, taking in the 2 wounded travelers. Zasha saw curiosity in their faces, but no hatred, no fear, just calm acceptance. Gritha led them to a large communal building at the valley's center. Inside, a human woman with healer's supplies was already preparing a workspace, clearly having been alerted to expect wounded. "Set them here," the healer said briskly. She was middle-aged, competent, with kind eyes. "I am Vera. Let me see those wounds." For the next hour, Vera worked on both of them, cleaning and stitching wounds, applying salves, binding injuries with practiced efficiency. When she was done, she gave them both cups of bitter tea. For the pain and to prevent infection, drink all of it. She studied them both. You two are lucky. Another hour and these wounds might have festered. As it is, you will both recover fully with rest and care. Thank you, Isaac managed. He was pale with blood loss but smiling. We made it, Zasha. We actually made it. Zasha took his hand, squeezing weakly. We did. Together. They spent the next 2 weeks recovering in Haven's Reach. The community welcomed them with open arms, providing food and shelter without asking for immediate payment. Zasha learned that the valley had been settled 10 years ago by the first brave couples fleeing persecution, and it had grown slowly but steadily since then. There were perhaps 50 people living in Haven's Reach now, about evenly split between humans and orcs. They farmed the valley floor, hunted in the surrounding forests, and traded carefully with distant communities that did not care about their mixed heritage. It was not an easy life, but it was a free one. As Zasha's strength returned, she and Isaac explored their new home. They met Derek, a human carpenter, and his orc wife Nara, who had 3 children, 2 taking after their mother's green skin and 1 favoring their father's human features. They met old Gramak, an orc elder who kept the peace and mediated disputes. They met Violet, a human woman who had been a noble's daughter before she fell in love with an orc warrior and gave up everything to be with him. Everyone had a story. Everyone had sacrificed something to be here. But when Zasha saw them working together, laughing together, building lives together, she knew they had found something precious. One evening, as she and Isaac sat outside the small cottage the community had helped them build, watching the sun set over the valley, she turned to him. Do you regret it? Losing your farm, your old life, everything you worked for? Isaac was quiet for a moment, considering. I regret that the world made us choose. I regret that love has to be this hard, this dangerous, but I do not regret choosing you. I would make the same choice 1,000 times over. Zasha leaned against him, content. I love you, Isaac Garrick, more than I ever thought possible. I love you too, Zasha Garrick. He smiled at the use of his surname for her. My wife, my partner, my home. They sat like that until the stars came out, 2 people who had lost everything and found something better. The road behind them had been hard, filled with pain and loss and sacrifice. But the road ahead was theirs to walk together, in a place where green skin and pale skin, tusks and smooth teeth, orc and human, were just details that did not matter as much as love and commitment. In the months that followed, they built their life in Haven's Reach. Isaac cleared land for farming with help from their neighbors, planting crops that would sustain them through the winter. Zasha hunted for the community, her skills feeding many families, and taught orcish tracking and survival techniques to anyone who wanted to learn. They were happy. Truly, deeply happy in a way that seemed miraculous given everything they had endured. Some mornings, Zasha would wake before dawn and lie still, listening to Isaac breathe beside her, marveling at the simple fact of his presence. She had gone from having nothing, being nothing, to having a home and a partner and a future. 1 year after their arrival in Haven's Reach, the community held a gathering to celebrate the spring planting. There was food and music, human instruments playing alongside orcish drums. Children ran between the tables, some green-skinned and some not, all laughing and playing together without seeing the differences adults might fixate on. Zasha stood with Isaac at the edge of the gathering, watching the celebration. Gritha approached them, a cup of mead in her hand. You two look happy, the older orc woman observed. We are, Zasha said simply. Good, you have earned it. Gritha took a drink, then added casually, "I heard from a traveler that Lord Brennan was removed from his position. Apparently, too many complaints about his excessive cruelty. There is a new lord in that territory now, younger, more moderate. The bounty on you two has been quietly withdrawn." Isaac straightened. "We could go back, if you wanted to. Your old farm was sold, but you could find other land in settled territory if you chose." Gritha studied them both. "Will you?" Zasha and Isaac looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. Then Isaac smiled and shook his head. "No, this is home now. These are our people. We have no reason to go back to a place that rejected us. Besides," Zasha added, "we have plans here. We just bought land from Gromak to expand our farm, and I have been teaching the children to hunt. I am not leaving them halfway through their lessons." Gritha grinned, showing her tusks. "I thought you might say that. Good. We need people like you here, people who remember what it cost to build this place." She wandered off to join the party, leaving Zasha and Isaac alone again. Isaac wrapped an arm around Zasha's waist, pulling her close. "No regrets?" he asked. "Not a single one." She kissed him, brief and sweet. "This is exactly where I am meant to be." 2 years later, their farm was thriving. They had added a second room to their cottage and were considering a third because Zasha was pregnant with their first child. The entire community was excited, fussing over her and offering advice about everything from diet to names. "If it is a boy, he should have a strong name," Nara insisted one day while they were working in the garden together. "Something that honors both his heritage." "And if it is a girl, something beautiful," Vera added. She had become a close friend over the years, stopping by regularly to check on Zasha's health. Zasha touched her swelling belly, feeling the flutter of movement within. "We have a few names picked out, but we will decide when we meet the child, when we see who they are." The baby came on a warm summer night, arriving with surprising speed and determination. Isaac held Zasha's hand through the labor, whispering encouragement and love. When their daughter finally slipped into the world, small and perfect and screaming, they both cried. She had green skin like her mother, but her father's gray eyes. Tiny tusks were already visible, and she had a tuft of dark hair that stuck up comically. She was beautiful. "Hello, little one," Zasha whispered, cradling her daughter against her chest. "Welcome to the world." "What should we name her?" Isaac asked, stroking the baby's tiny hand with one finger. Zasha thought about everything they had been through, everything they had survived. About the moment, Isaac had found her bleeding in his field and chosen mercy over hatred. About the journey north through danger and darkness. About building a new life in a place where love mattered more than prejudice. "Hope," she said finally. "Her name is Hope. Because that is what she represents, hope for a better future." Isaac kissed them both, his wife and his daughter, and nodded. "Hope Garrick, it is perfect." The years passed in the peaceful rhythm of farm life. Hope grew into a boisterous toddler, then an energetic child, splitting her time between helping in the fields and learning to hunt with her mother. 2 more children followed. A son named Eric who favored his father's human features, and another daughter named Kira who was somewhere in between. The children of Haven's Reach grew up together, learning from both cultures, seeing no strangeness in their mixed heritage. They were simply who they were, and that was enough. Zasha and Isaac aged together, their hair graying, their hands growing more calloused from work. But their love never wavered. Every morning they woke beside each other. Every evening they sat together watching the sunset, and every night they fell asleep grateful for the life they had built against all odds. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Isaac carved a marker stone and placed it at the edge of their property, at the spot where they could see both their farm and the broader valley beyond. He had inscribed words in both the common tongue and orcish script. Here stands proof that love is stronger than hate, that choice is more powerful than destiny, and that home is not where you come from but who you choose to be with. Zasha read the inscription with tears in her eyes, then pulled her husband close. "You sentimental fool," she said affectionately. "You're sentimental fool," he corrected. "Yes, mine, always mine." They stood there together as they had so many times before, two people who had been broken by the world and had healed each other. Around them, Haven's Reach thrived, a testament to the power of choosing love over fear. It had not been an easy road. The scars they carried, both visible and invisible, were real. They had lost much and sacrificed more. But standing there with Isaac's arms around her, their children playing in the distance, Zasha knew with absolute certainty that it had all been worth it. She had fallen to her knees once, wounded and desperate, on the edge of a human's land. She had been prepared to beg, to plead for mercy she did not expect to receive. But Isaac had given her something far greater than mercy. He had given her love, partnership, and a future she had never dared to imagine. And in return, she had given him the same. Together, they had built something beautiful from the ruins of their old lives. Together, they had created a home where their children could grow up free from the hatred that had defined their parents' youth. Together, they had proven that even in a world full of prejudice and fear, love could find a way. As the sun set over Haven's Reach, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Zasha leaned into her husband's embrace and smiled. This was happiness. This was home. This was the life they had fought for, suffered for, and ultimately won, and it was more than enough. In the 20th year of their marriage, Haven's Reach had grown from a small, hidden valley community to a thriving settlement of over 200 souls. More refugees arrived every year, humans and orcs fleeing persecution, seeking the freedom to love without fear. The community had established trade routes with sympathetic merchants, built a proper school for the children, and even constructed a meeting hall where disputes could be settled and celebrations held. Zasha had become one of the community's leaders, respected for her wisdom and her hunting prowess. She trained the younger generation in survival skills, teaching them to track and hunt and read the wilderness. Isaac served on the council that governed Haven's Reach, his calm, steady presence helping to mediate conflicts and plan for the community's future. Their children had grown into fine young adults. Hope, now 18, was already talking about scouting new valleys where the community might expand. Eric, 16, had apprenticed with Derek the carpenter and showed remarkable skill with woodworking. Kira, 14, spent her days helping Vera in the healing house, learning herbs and medicines. One evening, as Zasha and Isaac walked the path along the ridge above the valley, they encountered a young orc woman stumbling through the trees. She was injured, frightened, and clearly running from something. Zasha caught her before she fell, steadying her with gentle hands. "Easy, sister, you are safe now. What is your name?" "Mara," the young woman gasped. "Mara of nowhere. My clan is gone. I have been running for weeks. I heard rumors of a place where orcs and humans live together, where mixed couples are not hunted. I did not know if it was real." "It is real," Isaac said kindly, offering the girl water from his canteen. "You have found Haven's Reach. Welcome." Mara drank desperately, then looked between them with wide eyes. "Is it true, then? Orcs and humans can truly live here as equals, as partners?" Zasha smiled, taking Isaac's hand in hers. Their fingers intertwined easily, the gesture so natural after 20 years together. "We are living proof. I am Zasha Garrick, and this is my husband Isaac. We were among the first to come here, running from persecution just like you. Now we help others find the same peace we found." "How?" Mara asked desperately. "How do you make it work, one day at a time?" Isaac replied. With patience, with love, with the support of a community that believes in something better than hatred. They brought Mara down to the valley, to the healing house where Vera and Kira could tend her wounds. As they walked, Zasha thought about the young woman she had been when she first stumbled onto Isaac's land. Desperate, alone, expecting death and finding love instead. How strange that she was now on the other side of that equation, offering hope to someone who had none. How miraculous that the life she and Isaac had built had become a beacon for others lost in the darkness. That night, lying in bed beside her husband, Zasha spoke quietly into the darkness. "You ever think about that first night, when you found me in your field?" "All the time," Isaac admitted. "I think about how close I came to not going outside. I almost ignored the sound I heard, almost stayed inside by the fire. And if I had, I never would have met you. My whole life would have been different." "You could have had an easier life," Zasha said. "If you had left me there to die, or turned me over to the militia. You could have kept your farm, lived peacefully in human lands, maybe married a human woman and had a normal life." Isaac rolled over to face her, his gray eyes serious even in the dim moonlight filtering through their window. "Zasha, listen to me. That life would not have been easier, it would have been emptier. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Our children, this community, this life we have built together, it is everything I never knew I needed. Even with all the hardship, all the pain we went through. Especially because of that, the hardship taught us what we are capable of. The pain made us appreciate the joy." He cupped her face gently. "I would choose you again in an instant, every time, always." Zasha kissed him then, deep and sure, pouring 20 years of love into it. When they finally parted, both were smiling. "I love you, Isaac Garrick," she said. "And I love you, Zasha Garrick," he replied. "Until my last breath." They fell asleep wrapped around each other as they had every night for 2 decades. Outside, Haven's Reach slept peacefully under the stars, safe and thriving. And in the healing house, young Mara rested, her wounds tended, dreaming perhaps of the new life that awaited her in the morning. The cycle continued. Those who had been saved became the savers. Those who had found refuge offered it to others. And at the center of it all was the simple truth that Isaac and Zasha had proven through their lives. Love was stronger than hate, and choosing each other again and again was the bravest thing anyone could do. Years continued to pass in Haven's Reach, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. Zasha's hair turned more silver than black, and Isaac's face gained the deep lines of a life well lived. Their children married and had children of their own, creating a new generation that had never known the fear and persecution their grandparents had fled. On the 30th anniversary of the day, Isaac found Zasha in his field. The community held a celebration in their honor. The entire valley gathered in the meeting hall, where Gramak, now ancient and wise beyond measure, stood to speak. 30 years ago, a human man chose mercy over prejudice. An orc woman chose to trust when she had every reason not to. That single moment of choice rippled outward, creating waves that built this community, this home we all share. Gramak gestured to the crowded hall, filled with humans and orcs and their mixed heritage children. "Look around you. This is what courage looks like. This is what love can build." The crowd erupted in cheers. Zasha felt tears on her cheeks, but they were happy tears. Isaac squeezed her hand, his own eyes suspiciously bright. Later, when the celebration had wound down and they were walking home under the stars, hope approached them. She was grown now, a confident woman leading her own hunting parties, but she still looked at her parents with the same mix of love and respect she had shown as a child. "Mother, Father, I wanted to tell you something," Hope said. I have been scouting the eastern valleys like we discussed. I found a perfect spot for a new settlement. Good water, fertile land, sheltered from harsh weather. That is wonderful news, Isaac said. The council will be pleased. There is more. Hope took a deep breath. I met someone, a human man, a trapper living alone in those mountains. His name is Victor. We have been talking, getting to know each other, and I think. She trailed off, suddenly looking young and uncertain. I think I am falling in love with him. Zasha pulled her daughter into a fierce hug. Then I am happy for you, little one. Does he feel the same? He says he does, but he is worried about what it means, loving someone like me. He knows the history, knows how hard it was for you and father. Hope pulled back, looking between her parents. I told him it would be worth it, that you taught me love is always worth fighting for. Was I right? Isaac and Zasha exchanged glances, decades of shared understanding passing between them in a moment. Yes, Zasha said firmly. You were right. Love is always worth the fight, always. But be smart about it, Isaac added. Do not rush. Take your time to know each other, to build trust. And when you are ready, bring him here. Let him see what you come from, what you are offering him. Let him make his choice with full understanding. Hope nodded, her expression resolute. I will. Thank you for everything. For showing me that different kinds of love can work. For building this place where I never had to hide who I was. After she left, Zasha and Isaac continued their walk home, moving slowly through the familiar paths of the valley they had helped create. Our daughter is in love with a human, Isaac said wonderingly. The wheel turns. And she faces it without the fear we had, because we blazed the trail for her. Zasha looked up at the stars, so bright in the clear mountain air. That is what we fought for, is it not? So our children would not have to fight the same battles. It is, and we won. Isaac stopped walking and turned to face her fully. Zasha, these 30 years with you have been the greatest gift of my life. You made me brave when I wanted to be safe. You showed me what real strength looks like. You gave me a family, a home, a purpose beyond just surviving. You gave me all of that and more, Zasha replied. You gave me a second chance when I had given up. You looked at me and saw a person worth saving. You loved me when the world said you should not. She touched his face gently, tracing the familiar lines and planes. I would not trade a single moment, Isaac. Not the hard ones or the easy ones. All of it brought us here, to this place, to this life. And it is beautiful. They kissed under the stars, two old warriors who had long since laid down their weapons in favor of farming, tools, and family. When they finally reached their cottage, the fire burning warm and welcoming inside, they settled into their favorite chairs with cups of tea. Tell me the story again, Isaac said suddenly. Zasha smiled. She knew which story he meant. Which part? The beginning. When you stumbled onto my land and I found you in the field. You have heard this story 100 times. I want to hear it 100 more. Isaac's eyes were soft with affection. Please. So Zasha told the story again, as she had told it to their children and grandchildren, to newcomers seeking hope, to anyone who asked. She told of being wounded and desperate, of expecting death and finding mercy instead. She told of Isaac's gentle hands tending her wounds, of shared meals and quiet conversations, of the slow building of trust that became love. She told of standing before the militia, of Lord Brennan's decree, of the harrowing flight north through wilderness and danger. She told of Gritha appearing like an angel to guide them, of the first glimpse of Haven's reach, of collapsing into healing hands and waking to a new life. And she told of everything after, the building, the growing, the love that sustained them through challenges and celebrated them through triumphs. The births of their children, the expansion of the community, the slow transformation from refugees into founders. When she finished, Isaac was smiling through tears. "It is still the best story I know," he said. "It is our story," Zasha replied, "and I would not change a word of it." They went to bed that night as they had for 30 years, wrapped in each other's arms, their hearts beating in comfortable rhythm. Outside, Haven's Reach slept peacefully, a testament to what two people could build when they chose love over fear. In the years that followed, hope did bring Victor to the valley. The community welcomed him, and after a proper courtship, they married in a ceremony that blended human and orcish traditions. They eventually led the expedition to establish the new eastern settlement, taking with them families eager for new opportunities. Eric married a human woman named Violet, a teacher who had come to Haven's Reach to escape an arranged marriage in the South. Together they built a school in the new settlement, ensuring the next generation would be even more educated than their parents. Kira became a master healer, training under Vera until the old woman's death, then taking over the healing house and expanding it into a full medical facility. She married an orc warrior named Grath, and their children showed aptitude for both healing and fighting, able to defend the community or mend it as needed. Zasha and Isaac lived to see their grandchildren grow, to watch Haven's Reach expand from 1 valley to 3, to witness the first trade agreements with major human cities that officially recognized their community as legitimate. They lived to see attitudes slowly shift, to hear of other mixed settlements emerging, to know that their struggle had not been in vain. On a cool autumn day in their 50th year of marriage, Isaac took ill. It started as a cough, progressed to a fever, and despite Kira's best efforts, it became clear that his body was simply wearing out. He was 75 years old, had lived a full and joyous life, but even love could not stop the march of time. Zasha sat beside his bed day and night, holding his hand, telling him stories, reminding him of all the beautiful moments they had shared. Their children and grandchildren came to say their goodbyes, to thank him for the life he had given them, for the world he had helped create. On his last day, when the autumn sun streamed golden through the window, Isaac squeezed Zasha's hand weakly. "I am not afraid," he whispered. "I have had more happiness in 1 lifetime than most people find in 10. "Do not leave me," Zasha said, though she knew it was a futile request. "I am not ready to lose you. You will never lose me. I am in every stone of this valley, every tree we planted, every child that runs free because we dared to love each other." Isaac smiled, that same gentle smile that had made her fall in love with him 5 decades ago. "And I will wait for you wherever souls go when bodies fail. We are not done yet, Zasha. This is just intermission. Promise me," she said fiercely. "Promise you will wait. I promise. I will wait forever if I have to." His eyes grew distant, unfocused. "I see the field, Zasha. The one where I found you. I am walking toward it, and you are there, young and strong, waiting for me. You are always waiting for me." "I am here," Zasha said, tears streaming down her green cheeks. "I am always here. I love you, Isaac Garrick. I love you with everything I am. And I love you, Zasha Garrick, my wife, my heart, my home." He took one last breath, released it slowly, and was still. Zasha held him for a long time, feeling the warmth fade from his body, grieving the loss of her other half. But even through the pain, she felt gratitude. Gratitude for every day, every moment, every heartbeat they had shared. Isaac was buried on the ridge above Haven's Reach, overlooking the valley he had helped build. The entire community came to honor him, humans and orcs standing together in shared mourning. They told stories of his kindness, his wisdom, his courage in choosing love when it would have been easier to choose hate. Zasha stood at his graveside long after the others had gone, speaking quietly to the man she loved. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing me, for saving me, for loving me. You gave me a life I never dreamed possible. You made me believe in goodness when I had forgotten what it looked like. And I will carry you with me until the day we meet again." She lived for 5 more years after Isaac's death, spending her time with her children and grandchildren, teaching the younger generations, and serving as the community's elder alongside ancient Gramak. She told Isaac's story often, making sure everyone knew the name of the man who had started it all with one simple choice in a turnip field. When Zasha finally felt her own body beginning to fail, she was not afraid. She had lived a full, rich life, had loved deeply and been deeply loved in return. On a spring morning filled with birdsong, surrounded by her family, she closed her eyes for the last time and opened them in a sunlit field. She was young again, her body strong and unmarred by time. She looked down at her hands, flexing fingers that no longer ached with age, and laughed with pure joy. "I told you I would wait." She spun around. Isaac stood at the edge of the field, young and strong and smiling. He was exactly as she remembered him from their first days together, before time and hardship had marked them. Zasha ran to him, closing the distance between them in heartbeats. She threw herself into his arms and he caught her, spinning her around just like he used to when they were newly married and everything was possible. "You waited," she said, laughing and crying at once. "Of course I waited. I promised, did I not?" Isaac set her down but did not release her, holding her close. "I have been watching, watching you live our beautiful life, watching our family grow. I am so proud of you, Zasha, so proud of everything you did." "We did it together," she corrected. "Everything good in my life came from you. No, it came from us, from the choice we made to love each other despite everything against us." Isaac kissed her forehead gently. "Are you ready? Ready for what?" "For whatever comes next, together like always." Zasha smiled, feeling complete for the first time since Isaac had died. Together, always together. They walked hand in hand into the golden light beyond the field, two souls reunited, their story complete but their love eternal. Behind them, in the world they had left, Haven's Reach continued to thrive. Their children and grandchildren carried on their legacy, building new settlements, welcoming new refugees, spreading the message that love could triumph over hate. And sometimes, on quiet autumn evenings, people walking the ridge above Haven's Reach would swear they saw 2 figures standing together on the hillside. An orc woman with green skin and a human man with gray eyes, watching over the valley they had built, ensuring their dream lived on. The story of Zasha and Isaac became legend in Haven's Reach and beyond. It was told to children at bedtime, to couples struggling with the weight of prejudice, to anyone who needed to believe that love could conquer all. The marker stone Isaac had carved still stood at the edge of their original property, now preserved as a historical site, its inscription read by hundreds every year. "Here stands proof that love is stronger than hate, that choice is more powerful than destiny, and that home is not where you come from but who you choose to be with." And in the end, that was their greatest gift to the world. Not just the community they built or the family they raised, but the simple, powerful truth their lives had demonstrated. That when 2 people choose to see each other's humanity, to love across differences, to build rather than destroy, they can change the world, one person at a time, one choice at a time, one love story at a time. And it all started with an orc woman falling to her knees in a turnip field and a human man who answered not with violence but with mercy. That single moment of compassion rippled outward across decades, creating waves of change that would echo through generations. Their story was proof that the bravest thing anyone can do is choose love when hate seems easier. That the strongest warriors are those who fight for peace. That the greatest victories are not won on battlefields, but in the quiet moments of choosing kindness over cruelty, understanding over judgment, and hope over despair. Zasha and Isaac's love story became a beacon of hope in a dark world, a reminder that no matter how insurmountable the obstacles seem, love can find a way. And in finding that way, it lights the path for others to follow. This was their legacy. Not gold or glory, not power or prestige, but a simple farmhouse in a hidden valley where different people came together to build something beautiful. Where children of mixed heritage grew up free and happy. Where the only thing that mattered was not the color of your skin or the shape of your ears, but the content of your character and the love in your heart. And so their story ends as it began, with hope, with love, and with the unshakable belief that choosing to see the good in others, even when the world says you should not, is always the right choice. Always worth the struggle. Always worth the sacrifice. Because in the end, love is all that matters. Love is what we leave behind. Love is what makes us immortal. Zasha and Isaac proved that one day at a time for 50 beautiful years. And their love lives on still, in every person who chooses compassion over cruelty, in every couple who dares to love across boundaries, in every community that chooses welcome over rejection. Their story is not just a tale of the past. It is a promise for the future. A promise that love can triumph, that different peoples can live together in peace, that the world can be better if we are brave enough to make it so. This is their gift to us all. Remember it, honor it, live it. And when you face your own moment of choice between fear and love, remember the orc woman and the human man who proved that love is always, always worth choosing, always.